Shawn, to say the very least, for sure. Fellas, as far as okay, you guys went over the teams. We went over the New York teams. We went over your team, for that matter. Let's get to your biggest surprise and your biggest disappointment so far in this NFL draft. Who is the biggest surprise for you that was like, really, he got taken here? And then your biggest disappointment, like, why, what team disappointed you the most?
We're starting with me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I kind of showed my hand earlier, though. I'm going to say the biggest disappointment, biggest head scratcher was probably is for me that the Packers didn't draft a receiver. You know, Jordan Love was taken on day one. Aaron Rodgers apparently was beside himself about that. The last time that the Packers have taken an offensive player in a draft was 2011. And they took Aaron Rodgers. So that just shows you how they don't they took a tight end, I think, in the second or third round, but the focus was not on the skill position for Green Bay. And I thought that was something that they needed. Besides for Devontae Adams, I mean, there's been a lot of different guys that you've seen on that depth chart that have stepped in, tried to make an impact, tried to keep that offense above water. And I think that they just didn't do that. I was surprised at the Saints. I thought the Saints – I had Patrick Queen going to the Saints at number 24. Instead, they went with Cesar Ruiz, but I thought that Queen would have been a good fit there for the Saints at that linebacker position. Hometown kid, went to LSU, and he's the only draft pick from LSU in their 24-year existence for the Ravens, that is. So that was my surprise there of the first round. And just really quickly, as I touched on it before, Jerry Jeudy going to that Denver offense. I mean, I think that Broncos, from the offensive standpoint, had one of the best drafts this year. I mean, they added Jeudy. They also added KJ Hamler over there. So now you have all these guys either 27 or younger. You have Melvin Gordon, Phillip Lindsay, Cortland Sutton, KJ Hamler, Noah Fant to add now along with Jerry Jeudy. I thought Denver did that, and I thought that Cincinnati did it as well, because Cincinnati grabbed T. Higgins there at the start of the second round. Those two guys faced off in the national championship, Joe Burrow and T. Higgins, and now Higgins joins that receiving room of A.J. Green, John Ross, and Tyler Boyd. So I thought those were two offenses that really, really did big things, was Denver and Cincinnati.
Shawn?
Yeah, David, good stuff there. My surprise pick in a good way was, I kind of showed my hand too. How the hell CeeDee Lamb got to 17? I don't think nobody knows, because every mock draft had him going between 8 and like 14, 15 max. There was no mock draft I seen with him past that 15 16 mark. So the Cowboys, but David, I agree with you. Jerry Jones said, there's no way in hell I'm letting CeeDee Lamb get to Philly. There's no way in hell I am going to let that go. So my surprise pick in a bad way was the pick before Lamb, A.J. Terrell to the Falcons. Now, cornerback is a need for them. So, okay. And he's Atlanta-born, Atlanta-raised. Okay. But the last time we saw A.J. Terrell, the LSU receivers were having a field day. Joe Burrow picked on him repeatedly. The receiver that he was going one-on-one against in the national championship game had 9 catches, 221 yards. He gave him 221 yards in a championship game. That is absurd. And so I felt there were better corners to take there, or they could have went with the pass rush, because they desperately need that too. So that was my head scratching pick in the first round. Overall, remember this name and remember this team. The Buffalo Bills in round 3 took Santana Moss's cousin, Zach Moss. Zach Moss reminds me of Marshawn Lynch, just a little bit smaller. But the kid is a bruising back that can also catch. He's about 5'8", 5'9", about 218, 220 pounds, solid guy. And I think it won't surprise me if he starts for the Bills from day one. And as we know, the Bills have done a great job drafting and putting together that team. So, so us three, we all do blah blah fantasy. Sorry there, guys. I'm going to be sure to pick Zach because I think he's going to have a big year.
Shawn, I just had one quick question before Will gets to his. The one receiver we didn't talk about was the first one off the board, Henry Ruggs at number 12 to the Raiders. Now, I was curious because it was a surprise to me. I didn't think he was going to be the first one off the board. What were your thoughts on Vegas taking Ruggs?
Yeah, I was very shocked that they took him first. I'm not shocked at that he got taken in the first round because we all knew that he was a first round guy. But to me, like these short, fast guys are hit or miss. Like not every guy that's 5'10", 190 pounds is going to be Tyreek Hill. There's only one Tyreek Hill, but because the NFL is a copycat league now, all 32 teams want to find Tyreek Hill. There's only one Tyreek Hill. So if I was them, I would have went with CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy is the best route runner in that draft. And even though he's not the biggest guy, the fastest guy, if you could run routes, you're going to get open. Jerry Rice coming into the league was skinny as hell. And I think his 40 time was like a 4.5, 4.6 for a wide receiver that slow. But Jerry Rice knew how to run routes. And if you know how to run routes, you're going to get it open. So I was shocked there. And, David, it makes me question, do they even know what they're trying to do? Because their second first-round pick was a shocker, too. Like, nobody had – like, I remember when the pick was made, one of the guys said, the cornerback that they just took, I had him as my 8th highest rated one. The 8th highest rated cornerback got taken in the first round. So you thought things would change. Gruden is there. Mayock is there. And David, I think, is the same old Raiders, man.
Yeah, speaking of a copycat league, the Eagles were watching the Super Bowl from home thinking they got to be the next Chiefs there. And that's what they did in this draft.
With though that speed, absolutely, bro. I won't be shocked.
Well, if there's one thing that the Raiders know how to do, it's draft speed. So Al Davis has been trying to do that, even though he's been long dead for 8 years now, 9 years. That's what they've been trying to do. But that's always been like that for the Raiders. They want to get the sexy name. Anyway, my biggest surprise in a good way was seeing Isaiah Simmons go to the Cardinals. Now, nobody had him going to the Cardinals. I had him going to the Panthers in my mock draft, but to replace Luke Kuechly, it didn't happen. And I thought the Cardinals would maybe try and get their offensive tackle of the future right there. Jedrick Wills was there on the board. Mekhi Becton was there on the board. Tristan Wirfs was there on the board. So they go out there and they take Isaiah Simmons, try to solidify the defense, try and help out Chandler Jones in that way possible. Good for them. My disappointing kind of trade here, in a sense, and I know this is going to sound kind of idiotic to some, but if you really think about it, I don't know why the Tampa Bay Buccaneers decided to go up and trade one spot from 14 to 13 with the San Francisco 49ers. And we all know that in 2020 hindsight that they wound up trading Andrew Trent Williams, right?
Yeah.
Okay. They wound up trading Trent Williams over from Washington to San Francisco. Joe Staley retires. I get all that. They get the draft picks and everything like that compensated. But for Tampa to move up a spot, San Francisco could have done, who knows? Who knows at that point what could have happened. But for me, to give up the draft capital like that, to go up there and select a guy that might have been there, who knows? But to me, that just was like really disappointing. And then, number two, as far as another disappointing team goes, that's like really in a sense. You look at Atlanta trying to go out there and, trying to go out there and help their secondary out a little bit to go out there, draft the safety at that point in time. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with them either, but they're right there in the thick of things as well. But I really thought that Tampa Bay was the more disappointing team, giving up the draft capital in that sense.
One thing that we can say, John Lynch knows how to fleece teams. John Lynch is the same guy that called the Chicago Bears and said, look, teams are blowing up my phone. They want to come get a Mitch. Mitch is yours. Just come in. And he somehow got the Bears to trade whatever pick they gave him or picks they gave him to get Mitch. And as you know, in that draft, Watson and Patrick Mahomes was in that same draft. And talking about San Fran, David, they had a busy day. So they traded with the Bucks on day 1. And then on day 3, they traded, as you said, Marquise Goodwin, who outside of the Kansas City team, David, as you said, Philly just may be the second fastest team now. Rager, Jackson, Goodwin, Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. That is some serious speed there, man. So they made that trade. 1, they made the trade with Washington to get Trent, number 2, and a very underrated trade that I actually like. They traded Matt Breida to Miami. Mm-hmm. I love that move on both fronts. So John Lynch, he knows how to fleece teams. He knows how to make moves. He was a very busy guy. And, well, the Dolphins made some serious moves, and now they have that 1-2 punch, Howard and Matt Breida. Both the NFC East and the NFC East are going to be fascinating divisions to watch, because I think in the NFC East, I think we know right now it's either going to be Philly or the Dallas. Mm-hmm. But that AFC East is wide and open.
It is.
Bro, the Bills can win it. The Dolphins can win it. The Patriots could stay on top, or dare I say the Jets. Nobody knows, man.
It can happen. Anything's possible now for the first time in nearly 20 years, especially with New England losing out on Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, and co. So there's going to be a lot going on. We talked about surprises. We talked about disappointments. Let's end the show on this. The biggest winners and the biggest losers of the NFL draft. We'll start off with our special guest, David. David, who's your biggest winner and who's your biggest loser?
Ooh, if I had to pick the biggest loser, I'm still riding that Packers train, because I just don't know, for a team that has to sit up there and compete in their division and really could have taken that next step for Aaron Rodgers, try and get him a little bit more help. I'm still going to stick with the Packers as my biggest losers of this draft. And the biggest winners, I mean, am I going to be a homer if I say the Eagles because of their slow start in the draft? It would be tough for me, but it's going to sound strange. But I think Cincinnati, and I think Cincinnati is a big winner for the reason being that we know that the Ravens are going to be the division winner. Lamar Jackson's going to take that team deep again. But the Steelers are at a transitional stage right now. They're not sure what's happening with Big Ben. The Browns have a mess of their own. So Cincinnati has a chance to really come in, maybe even compete for a wild card spot. I mean, we'll see how fast of a start Burrow gets off to, but it's really not going to have too much of an excuse out there from the offensive standpoint. So I really like what Cincinnati did in this draft. And then another thing that we didn't speak about when I was talking about the Cowboys earlier, they drafted Byron Jones' replacement in Stephon Diggs' brother with Trevin Diggs. So I thought that was a good pick for them out of Bama, I believe, right? So I thought that was a good need that they addressed there with Dallas. But I'm going winners, thumbs up Cincinnati, thumbs down Packers.
Shawn?
Winners, it's a tie for me, Will, if I'm allowed to pick 2. First things first, the Colts, which gets me mad because they're in the AFC South. But the Colts had a great draft. Yep. The Colts nailed every one of their picks. So I'm like, oh boy, I hope that the Titans made some a pretty good moves too. The second team that I felt won, the Baltimore Ravens. They've nailed the draft the past 2-3 years. Like half of their team are their own picks. That's crazy. That's just a crazy thing right there. So I think those two teams nail it. Two teams that didn't have a good draft. I agree 100%. It's not that the Packers drafted Jordan Love.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that, David, as you said, they didn't fill no needs. So it's like, what was the point of even coming into the draft if you're not going to fill needs? So that was my first loser there. My second loser, well, this may put a smile on your face, David, too. The Patriots had so many draft picks. I like maybe two of their picks. There are other picks, I'm like, who? Who? He did what? He came from where? So I don't think the Patriots had a good draft at all. But watching 5 years, this be the greatest draft class they ever had, because that's just what they do. So we shall see. But a very interesting thing, Patriots had a chance to take Love. They did not. Patriots had a chance to take Jalen Hurts. They did not. I wonder if they're really thinking about trading for Andy Dalton, if they're really thinking about going out and signing Cam, or are they really going to stick with Jared Stidham? I think that's going to be the most polarizing thing to watch between now and the start of the year. What do they do? But as of right now, Stidham is still their guy. So we shall see, man.
My biggest winner is going to be in that AFC South, but it's not going to be the Colts, even though they drafted their position. They had their first round draft. They had their first pick in the second round. I'm going to have to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars here, drafting C.J. Henderson, getting Kavai Chason, and getting Laviska Shenault Jr. from Colorado. Yeah, people are going to question the Shenault pick because of the fact that he's physical, make no mistake about it, but he has injury history. But he's still one of the top receivers on the board. I thought the Jets were going to go out there and get him or move up to get him, but it didn't happen. Instead, they moved down. They got Mr. Mims, so that was good for the Jets. But to get back to the Jaguars here, you fill a need in the cornerback position, in which C.J. Henderson kind of fills the void for both A.J. Bouye, who went to Denver, and you get to see Jalen Ramsey's replacement. So that's first and foremost. And then outside linebacker, to get an outside linebacker like that is just absolutely unbelievable. He could play edge. He could play in. So that's good for them in a sense. In Jacksonville last year, they were like one of the top 10 units in defense anyway. So to add those two, really, really good. Like those moves right there. And like I said, Shenault, they needed a wide receiver badly. We're going to see what happens with their quarterback situation as the time goes on. But listen, make no mistake about it. Who I forgot who their quarterback is anyway.
Who?
The Jags quarterback.
Gardner
Minshew.
Gardner Minshew, yes, thank you. So Minshew and the Laviska Shenault connection will be 1-2 for sure. Biggest losers is actually going to be tough because, Shawn, I know you mentioned the Patriots. David, I know you mentioned the Packers. I'm going to have to go with the Eagles here. I am, because the fact that, forget the fact that they had Jalen Hurts going second round, everything like that. I felt like they could have had more of a position need at cornerback. For sure, I know Jalen Hurts is there. I get everything you said, and I agree with you 100%. But last year, when you're ranked in nearly dead last in passing yards against, that's not good, especially in an NFC East, where you still have the Cowboys. Now, they're going to be throwing the ball like crazy now with having CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper back there, and especially having Ezekiel Elliott catching balls out of the backfield. That's going to help them out in a big way. Redskins, we don't know what's going to happen with the Redskins, but Ron Rivera is still a great coach over there. He'll figure his way out. And then with the Giants, Danny Jones having the receiving core up there, they could have addressed secondary help in the second round. They didn't. They wound up going out there and taking the best available player on their board. But in a draft in which you go out there, you take you take the needs of a team, you go out and you draft a QB like that. I don't know. I really don't know, to be honest with you. I take the Eagles.
Just to give you just a little bit of insight to piggyback off what you were saying. So
Yeah.
the Eagles' thought process was that obviously they got Darius Slay, which is the biggest cornerback signing for them since Nnamdi Asomugha. They've had a lot of misses on high-end or high-priced cornerbacks in free agency.
Mhm.
I thought it was good of them to pass up on Byron Jones, but the reason why they didn't address that need in the draft, they have Darius Slay. A lot of people in the Eagles camp are saying that Sidney Jones is a new man. For the first time in his NFL career, he should be healthy, and they feel like that's going to go a long way with him. There were rumors about Rasul Douglas, former Nassau Community College member over there, but
Yep.
he's still on the team. There were rumors he could be traded. That still remains to be seen. While they don't have a very deep and a lot of high veteran presence in that cornerback room over there, I think that Darius Slay takes care of one side, and really what they're going to need to do is rely on Sidney Jones to be the guy that they thought they got the steal when they drafted him a couple of years ago, because he was a guy, if you remember, he had a lot of injury history in college, and had he stayed healthy, he would have been a first-round pick in Sidney Jones, but that wasn't the case. The Eagles felt they got a steal. It hasn't worked out yet, but this is the year that they're hoping that it does, and that's why the Eagles didn't go for any secondary help in the cornerback room over there.
I totally get it. I totally get it. But you look at what's going on, with everything that happened. It's just something that just makes me wonder. It's just something that makes me wonder about it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with Philly. I think, but I wouldn't. But I think that the position you're talking about is wrong. Philly, David, you being the fan, you would know. Philly, your linebacking core sucks. They have nobody there.
Ever since Jordan Hicks, they let Jordan Hicks walk to Arizona, which I thought was a horrendous move. Ever since then, they've kind of been treading water, to put it lightly, at the linebacker position.
Exactly. So I would have maybe. That's why I thought they were going to go with either Patrick Queen at 21 or Murray at 21 if the receiver they didn't didn't fall, because their linebacking corps sucks. So. Well, I don't disagree with Philly as a whole, and especially with maybe they could have filled another need with the Hurts pick instead of taking Hurts, but the line of backing core needs some help, because the Philly secondary, even though Ronald Darby left and so did Malcolm Jenkins, you still got Douglas and Slay, Sidney Jones, Mills. He's still there too, and that front four is nasty.
It's nasty. I'm not going to deny that.
Cox is still great, bro.
Not going to deny 100%. So, those are our thoughts on the NFL draft. Guys, any final thoughts?
Yeah, before we go, I want to ask David a couple football questions. If you got time.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, go ahead.
David. So non-NFL draft football question, David. I have two. What's your thoughts on the Jaguars trading Nick Foles to the Bears? It obviously seems like Mitchell Trubisky is either on his way out or he's going to be replaced. What's your thoughts on Foles with the Bears? Do you think it's a move that would work, not work? What's your take?
Well, I'm going to give it to you from both sides, from the Jacksonville side and from the Chicago side. Jacksonville, if you know anything about Tony Khan, he just started a wrestling promotion about maybe a little bit longer ago. He's a showman. He's an entertainer. He likes that. So he saw the marketability in Gardner Minshew. Not to take away anything from his ability, but maybe you guys may feel differently. I don't feel that Minshew is a franchise quarterback. I don't think he's going to be the guy that rights the ship in Jacksonville. But I thought that, Nick Foles played a drive in Jacksonville before he he got hurt. And that was the big move for them last offseason. And they pulled the trigger on that very quickly on making that deal for Chicago. making that deal to Chicago. So I thought that Jacksonville cut bait way too early over there. Hopefully things work out for them with Minshew, because if not, I think that could be a missed opportunity. But at the same time, the Jags are not a win-now team. So regardless of whether Foles was there or Minshew was there, they weren't going to win too many games. From the Bears side, it's ironic because the double doink game, we know about that against Nick Foles, one of the last times we saw Foles in an Eagles uniform starting in the playoffs for them. I think that they needed to light that fire under Trubisky because the backups that they've had there in the 2 seasons Trubisky has had really hasn't provided any of a threat to him. The big knock on Trubisky is that his accuracy, he can't hit a receiver within 5 yards of where the receiver is open. And he's had a few playmakers over there. We saw certain players step up. Taylor Gabriel, when they brought him into the fold, was a guy, Allen Robinson. So it's not to say that there's not weapons out there on that Chicago offense. They had Trey Burton, who they ended up really not doing much with, and he moved on to Indy now. But I think that this lights the fire underneath Trubisky, and I think that this allows Chicago to to tighten the leash on Trubisky, to know that 3, 4, 5 games in, if they start out 2-3, 1-4, something like that, that it allows a veteran to come in there like Nick Foles, who's going to know how to run the offense and is going to command that presence of the huddle. So I think that's the real reason why the Bears did it. So I mean, we'll see how it pans out for them. But if Trubisky doesn't come out firing this year, I think that's going to be the last time you see him in a Bears uniform starting.
All right, David. And my last question for you is: this could affect Philly for a long time. What do you think Dallas should do with Dak? They franchise tagged him, but Dak wants $40 million a year. Mm-hmm. The only person I'll even think about giving that to is obviously Patrick Mahomes, because I think Patrick Mahomes is going to break every bank in the world. He is going to be the first $200 million guy. With that being said, what do you think that does with Dak? Because if they bring him back with that team, he could give Philly, Washington, and the Giants a run for the next 5 years, 10 years. What do you think?
I hope they pay him because, I want the Cowboys to be hamstrung financially. So I hope they do pay him. I don't think he deserves that money. I don't think he's an elite quarterback. I think you can't put that E word in front of his name. And now he's going to have less of an excuse. The same way I was saying that quarterbacks like Drew Lock and other young quarterbacks have no excuses. Dak falls right into that boat now. CeeDee Lamb as your number 2 guy behind Amari Cooper. I was surprised, and Shawn, if you remember, we spoke about this through social media recently when Cooper was signed. I didn't see him coming back to Dallas. So I thought that's a huge plus for Dak. And I think that, there's a safety net there, like I said, with that offense, with Zeke, with Lamb, with Cooper. So to answer your question, no, I don't. If I was a Cowboys fan, I don't think they should pay him. I hope they do pay him as an Eagles fan. And as far as giving the NFC East a run for their money, I mean, and for the foreseeable future, it's going to be Dallas and it's going to be Philly. Right. The Giants are still the Giants have their own issues. The Redskins, it's going to be interesting to see what Ron Rivera does for that team, because the Redskins have been a laughing stock for a few seasons now. Probably the last time they had any respectability was the early RG3 years. So we'll see what the Redskins do. Now they have Chase Young. Is Haskins the guy in Washington? We don't even know if they like him over there. You know what I mean? There were some people that thought they were going quarterback Washington. Mm-hmm. And thankfully for that franchise, they didn't, because I don't think Haskins has gotten his due yet. But I think that now is the time. If Dallas is going to make a run and try to make a stronghold on the NFC East, it's going to be now. It's got to be with Dak in that offense. And, they're going to have to win now. But do I think that if they get out of the NFC East, they're going to be a threat to some of the higher powers in the NFC? I would say no to the Cowboys right now, and maybe it's my bias showing, but I don't see the Cowboys having enough to get past some of the top-tier teams in the NFC. If the Niners are going to stick around, if the Niners are going to be a threat for a team like the Niners to match up against the Cowboys, I don't think it's really going to favor Dallas come playoff time.
It's interesting right there. All right, guys. So I guess that was final thoughts right there. So we'll just end the show like this, guys. David, thank you so much for sacrificing some time. I know you're doing your thing right now, just relaxing at home. But thank you for doing the things that you do for not only the community, but for all of Suffolk County and for
Definitely, bro.
everything that you do. So just want
And
to
stay safe, man.
stay safe out there, man.
I appreciate that, guys. It's never a sacrifice for you. I'm always willing to come on. I love coming on. I love talking sports with you guys. It's always fun. The last little nugget I'm going to leave you guys with.
Sure.
This is for all those undrafted free agents out there. There's more undrafted free agents in the Hall of Fame than there is first overall picks. There's 17 undrafted free agents in the Hall of Fame right now. There's 3 more going in later this year. And there's 14 first number 1 overall picks in the Hall of Fame. So if you didn't get drafted today or this weekend, it still doesn't mean that you're not going to have a long, successful Hall of Fame career. So keep your head up on that. And gentlemen, I thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
David coming with stats, Will. David coming with some stats.
You know I always come
I'm
prepared.
with stats since Nassau. Come on now. He knows his stuff.
And
He
David,
never comes unprepared.
And David, man, to prove your point, I was saying this on a previous show. The starting running backs in the Super Bowl: Damian Williams, Raheem Mostert, undrafted.
Mm-hmm.
To prove your point.
Yep.
Furthermore, and this goes without saying, as everybody knows, as we said on previous shows, David is the reason. David gave me and Will the start to where we're at now. So,
100%.
David, I know I speak for Will. We appreciate you. We appreciated you then. We appreciate you now, and we'll forever appreciate you, bro.
Yep. Thank you. Really appreciate it, Dave. All right, guys. So for everybody here at the On the Board Sports Podcast, for our special guest, David Goldstein, good friend of the show and longtime fan of the show. And for my wonderful co-host, Shawn Thomas, a.k.a. Shawn T, a.k.a. Shawnee on the mic, I am your host, William Chiarucci, logging out. We will talk to you guys soon. Peace out. Stay safe. And stay safe.